Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Micah and today I have my June book review for you. I'm coming to you makeupless and with my hair up because I'm in the middle of like the final week before summer vacation starts, which if you also work in education, you know that last week or the last couple of weeks before your vacation starts, you want to make sure everything is ready to go for the new year and everything is always crazy busy. So that's why I just decided to have a bit of a chill weekend this weekend as I'm recording this. It's also my birthday weekend, so I just can't be bothered to be putting on makeup and trying to look cute right now. So I will try and get back to that regular program a little bit later this week when you see some pre-recorded videos that I already had lying about. But today I just want to make sure that I can post my review of the 4 books that I read in the month of June. There was a bit of YA here, a little bit of fantasy definitely as well, so let's just get stuck right into it. So in previous months you heard me talking about reading audiobooks, but I did not manage to finish an audiobook in the month of June. All of the books I read are paper copies. So the first book I finished in the month of June is The Gilded Rules by Roshani Chokshi. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. If not, I'm terribly sorry. But The Gilded Rules was a book that the minute I saw this coming out, I knew I wanted to read this book because the premise of the book really sounded intriguing to me. It's set in 19th century Paris, 19th century historical setting. It features an alternate universe where different houses sort of collect items and there are like pieces that sort of hold the world together and collecting those items have to do with it. And then we have sort of like a mismatched group of people who are trying to resolve a mystery surrounding some of those pieces that hold the world together. So a bit of fantasy, a little bit of alternate universe, a bit of historical fiction. I felt that this book was very capable of chucking all of the things I love into one story. And I felt it was a little bit lacking, I do have to say. So in the story, the main characters, this is a YA novel, so the characters are all in their teens, and I don't know, it just wasn't very plausible what they were doing, how they behaved and all that. It just didn't really fit, and it also didn't really fit within the setting, I felt. I mean, this book could have been set anywhere in the world in any given time period. It did not have to be set in 19th century Paris. I felt that the backdrop of like the World Fair was not one that really added much to the story in general. And that's how I felt a little bit about this story anyway. Like there were a lot of good elements, but there was no logical line that really strung them together to make it one story. I felt there were really good elements in it, but rather than all those elements feeling connected and feeling like one whole story, it was just that, different elements. So for me, it never really came together. I did enjoy it, it was an entertaining read, but because of all of these elements, I had a hard time reading this very quickly. It definitely took me a good 2.5 weeks to get through this. I already started this at the end of May, thinking it's a YA story, I can finish this very quickly. Boy, was I wrong. So this definitely took me a while to get through. In the end, I was entertained, but I won't be picking up the next book in this series because I'm just not attached to the characters enough to warrant buying the second book. So after that book, I was definitely in for something a little lighthearted, and I hope to be watching the TV show that was released at the end of May during my summer break. So I knew I wanted to get to Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, because I love me some Neil Gaiman. I'm unfamiliar with the work of Terry Pratchett, so I thought that this could also be a nice sort of bridge between them and to hopefully then also move into a bit of Terry Pratchett in the future. This was written back when both authors weren't super famous yet. So this is a book that was already around in like the early 90s, and it's definitely like one of those cult favorites. And this is one of those books that if you don't understand very dry British humor, you will not like it. I am not the slapstick, ha ha ha, you fell on your face kind of American humor. That's what I always typecast American humor like. I'm much more of the snide, word jokes, sarcastic humor that the British have. So this book was right up my street, like totally. I do have to say that the jokes were really funny in like the first half of the book, but then I feel that there are so many of them that it starts to become a little bit of a gimmick. So that's why this wasn't a 5-star read for me, but I knocked it down to like 4. But if you don't know what this is about, it's about an angel and a demon. They live on Earth and Judgment Day is here. The big Armageddon, end of the world is nigh, and they find out that they have misplaced the Antichrist. So there's this whole backstory of like 2 boys being swapped at birth, and needless to say, he's swapped around. And then sort of the showdown that leads to that. At first you get a lot of backstory behind like the acts of the demon and the angel and how they sort of met each other through history. And that to me was a lot more enjoyable. I felt like the second half of the book was much more about this like boy who was then supposed to be the Antichrist and like some other side characters, which for me very much muddled the story a lot because you got all these different perspectives. I definitely fell in love again with the latter half of the book because that's when all of these characters are coming together. So overall, this was a very enjoyable, funny, witty read that I very much enjoyed reading. But because it was a bit segmented, again, very much like this actually, it felt very sort of like tuk 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 tuk, like a story chopped into pieces. But yeah, it was really good in the end. Then a book that I knew I wanted to get upon release was Ben Aronovich's The October Man. This book, or novella actually it is, was released in like mid-June, I would say, or like around the 11th, I believe. That's when this came out. And if you don't know what this book is about, this is 7.5, book 7.5 in the Peter Grant series by Ben Aronovich. This is the first book in the series that doesn't feature Peter Grant as a character though, because this is set in Germany instead of England. And apparently in Germany they also have a metropolitan police department that specializes in the supernatural. So that's why this book, I knew I was going to read it straight away. Since it's a novella, it's like less than 200 pages, so I was able to read this in a day. Nice, short, easy breezy read in a series that I absolutely love. The only reason why I didn't give this 5 stars was because I had to get used to the new characters a little bit, and I'm not sure how much is really added to the world, instead of just like making some sort of possibility for a future book where Peter Grant and Toby, which is the main character in this book, to somehow meet one day and exchange notes. But I'm pretty sure that that's the setup behind this. I know that he's already playing around with writing another book about the characters in this one, so we'll see what happens in the future. The next full book in the series is slated to be released by the end of the year, so looking forward to that too. And then last but definitely not least, a book that very much surprised me this month was Showstopper by Haley Barker. And this was a cover by, like, look at that. It's absolutely stunning. And when I read the blurb in the back, it felt like this was going to be like a YA Night Circus kind of book. And I really like the Night Circus. It's one of my like favorite books. I like the magical realism in there. And I was expecting this to go down in like a similar vein. And the minute I started reading, I was like, oh, wait. You are not trying to be the Night Circus, which I thought was actually something that this book had going for it, because I was very much, like, the reason why I hadn't picked it up yet to read was because I was afraid it was trying to do the Night Circus, and I'm so glad it didn't. I ended up reading this entire book in a single day, just a matter of hours, because it's so action-packed. It is a split perspective book again, which I'm usually not a big fan of, but I felt in this book that it really worked. And this has a very, like, I haven't heard a lot of people talking about this, but if you don't know what this this book is about, it's about Ben and Hoshiko. They are the 2 main characters, and every once in a while this circus comes to town. It's set in a dystopian world where there are pure people and there are dregs, and the dregs live in the slums. And this circus picks up drag kids and has them do all these like almost deadly, sometimes truly deadly acts in this circus show. And the pures live for the kill, you could say. But that's something that you only really get as you're reading the story. So it has a bit of like a, well, I wouldn't say Hunger Games, but it has a bit of a Hunger Games vibe to it, in the sense that it has a setting where people are killed for sport, you could say. And yeah, but it has some politics behind it as well. I thought this was very cleverly written. I thought the romance in the book was a bit, I usually feel that way about romance, if you don't know that about me, but I thought the romance was a bit like it had to be there kind of thing. I think that this book could have been great without the romance setting. This is again a first book in a series, and even though I liked it very much, I'm not going to be reading the next books in the series, and the reason for that is that I feel that this is a very well-rounded story, and I don't feel that we're leaving the characters of this one at a point where I'm like, ooh, I need to read the next one. I just don't. I feel that this is a very good book to read as a standalone, and that's what I'm planning on doing. And this is a book that, for it being a cover buy, really surprised me. It's one of the best YA books that I've read in a long time. So, thumbs up to Haley Barker. And there you have it. Those were the 4 books that I read in the month of June. Let me know in a comment down below what you have been reading. I definitely was in the mood for like witty, funny, quick, easy reads because I've been so busy. And so short books are definitely still on my radar for now. Just a week more to go, and then I have vacation, and then I can get stuck into some of the more intense books that I still have on my list to read. There are definitely a couple of books I want to get to before the end of summer, because next books and series are coming out and all that. So without further ado, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you didn't mind my makeupless face too much, and I hope to see you again in my next video, which will be up on Thursday. So I hope to see you in that one. Bye!